Yes, Chantel, this all happened just after 7:30 this morning. In fact, it happened a few meters from where I'm standing on Highway 5 near the 316 turnoff. Now, the RCMP are telling me that the driver of a vehicle traveling west on Highway 5 lost control. That's when he crossed the center line and collided head-on with a gravel truck. Now, here's a look at the aftermath of this collision on your screens right now. You can see the damage is quite extensive. Both vehicles ending up in the north ditch. The gravel truck sustained some minor damage to its front end, but the car is almost unrecognizable. There's plenty of scattered debris as well all across this highway. RCMP now telling us the male driver of the car was transported to Royal University Hospital, where he's been pronounced dead. The driver of the gravel truck was not injured, but police tell us he's very shook up. He's in fact traumatized by what happened. Now, we don't know the age of either driver or their identities. As for weather conditions, it's not known if they played a factor, but the roads were slippery, according to emergency officials. Well, Chantel, I can tell you that at least one gunshot was fired yesterday afternoon. Police wouldn't tell us exactly how many shots were fired, but they do say a 34-year-old man did suffer a non-life-threatening injury in this case. Now, he was hit with a gunshot to his shoulder, and also he was wounded by a dog bite. Now, police were not injured in this case, nor were any members of the public, but it did cause quite a commotion here on 20th Street East and on 4th Avenue. Let's bring you back to where it all unfolded. Here's a video sent in to us by a viewer. Now, it's almost like a scene from a movie. You can see the police here with guns drawn. In this incident, police say the man has an improvised weapon, possibly a zip gun. Now, police officers deployed non-lethal weapons. They used a taser and a beanbag gun. Both were unsuccessful before a sidearm was used by an officer to take down the suspect. Medical teams transported this suspect to hospital. He's not yet been interviewed by police, and he will face charges of possession of a weapon dangerous to the public and careless use of a firearm. Chantel, this fire all happened right behind me at the AkzoNobel chemical plants. Now, this company makes a number of industrial chemicals, fuels, and paints. This morning, a security guard was working, and that person noticed some smoke coming from a vent on the top of the building. That smoke eventually could be seen from blocks away. Now, as you got closer, you could smell just a bitterness in the air. The Saskatoon Fire Department was quick to respond just after 4 a.m. And when firefighters arrived, they found flames coming from a vent stack that led to a tank on the inside of the building. The hazardous materials team confirmed this was a 2,500-gallon tank, nearly half full, with a combustible fuel additive. Now, thankfully, no one was injured, and the fire was put under control. Assistant Fire Chief Wayne Roger says that his firefighters were prepared. Stephanie, we're being told by RCMP that a 17-year-old male was found injured with suspected gunshot wounds inside of a home yesterday in Meadow Lake. Now, that boy was transported to hospital where he was later pronounced dead. The RCMP are not releasing his identity at this time, but we are receiving a lot of feedback on social media. Many people sending their condolences, their thoughts, and their prayers. A lot of people in the city of Meadow Lake are very shocked right now. The RCMP are continuing their search, however, for a male suspect at this time that is considered armed and dangerous. They sent out a release shortly after 12:30 yesterday, just looking for this person, and following a very serious incident. We don't know how this incident took place. The RCMP not telling us exactly what unfolded here, and we don't know if this person in question might be connected to this 17-year-old's death. Now, there is a description of this suspect. He is described as 5 feet 8 inches tall, 102 pounds, with a gray Burton hat, glasses, a red hoodie, and black Adidas track pants. You're asked not to approach him if you see him, but instead to call the RCMP immediately. As for the city of Meadow Lake at this point, all lockdowns have been lifted in that city, and the schools there are open, their business as usual. There will be some counseling provided as well. As we receive more information, we'll provide you with all of the latest updates. You can stay connected to that right here on CTV News Saskatoon. Matt, it's a sigh of relief for many of these families who were evacuated from their homes this afternoon. Now, what I can tell you is a lot of them came from Leader, Saskatchewan, and they came here to the Elk Hall and to the Emergency Operations Center in Kindersley. Now, Kindersley is at a premium right now for vacancy. A lot of hotels have been filled up by evacuees, about 200 evacuees here in Kindersley, and they're going to stay here overnight. Now, what I can tell you, though, is that we do have some good news. The Emergency Operations Manager, Bernie Morton, he tells us that these evacuees will likely be allowed to return home as early as tomorrow morning. Now, we spoke with a couple of them, and they described for us just how fast this fire spread.
He said some other fires flared up around some farms, so they were out in that area. And then the Leader nuisance ground flared up.
The wind was so strong, it wasn't smoke, it was dirt blowing off fields, and I couldn't see the highway. I had to stop. It was probably, I'm guessing 140 clicks. Yeah, couldn't see nothing.
As for the wildfires, the province confirming fires near Birstall and Leader are contained at this point. There is some structural damage to some farm equipment, although it's not known the extent of that damage. Now, I also had a chance to speak briefly with the mayor of Kindersley, Rod Perkins. He says his team was prepared for the worst. Of course, this fire all starting Tuesday afternoon after a grass fire broke out just south of Birstall. It forced 500 people from that town to pack up their things and leave. Now, this fire developed very quickly with heavy smoke and heavy winds, and it continued to move northeast on Range Road 11. It moved very far, crossing the Alberta border into Saskatchewan. Now, the biggest concern here, as I mentioned, of course, was that 100 kilometer per hour wind, and it certainly made it hard to fight this fire. In fact, on our way up here to Kindersley, you could feel the wind gusting our van back and forth. Right now, as for highways, the province has shut down Highway 21 from Liebenthal to Leader. People asked to be taking a different route through that area. The province's rapid response team, along with the RCMP, also providing assistance here, and they will provide any additional resources should they be needed. We'll keep you updated on this story as more information becomes available tomorrow morning, and you can stay connected to all that information right here on CTV News. Matt?